Melbourne, SpaceX headquarters. There is a large crowd gathering. You might hear them cheering occasionally. Now,
So we
Dan
are
mentioned a good point about the holds. We have an
4
opportunity
minutes
to
away
today hold for a few minutes. And this is a
from
really
the
cool thing
third
about
integrated
Starship.
flight
And we
test
don't have
of
this opportunity with Falcon or Falcon Heavy.
from SpaceX.
Up until the T-minus 40-second point, aborts are just holds. So anything that would trigger an abort prior to T-minus 40 seconds becomes
Wow,
a hold.
that's a lot
so
of
that's
engines.
a really cool feature to allow the team to wait for final checkouts or assess prop levels, engines, avionics, vehicle pressurization. It's really helpful to ensure a liftoff.
Yeah, and that's something that is very different from Falcon. I'm sure people have watched our launches, and then we get right down past prop load and then have to scrub because of weather or scrub because of an issue on the vehicle.
Wow, 3 minutes.
And we don't have
So do you think
the
they're going to
same
have any
constraints
holds?
on our propellant and our system with
I guess
Starship,
that's what they're
which gives us more availability
anticipating
in the
is
window.
possibly
And sometimes that's all you
holds.
need. Sometimes the winds dip just enough where you can launch the rocket safely, and otherwise, if you didn't have that ability to hold a few minutes, you might miss that window and then have to recycle to another day. You might miss that.
Exactly, which is kind of like today. Like we mentioned earlier, winds are the thing that we are watching, so good news there. So we are still continuing to progress. We're looking at liftoff in just under almost 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, the whole thing's covered in ice.
Super exciting. Like we
So
said
it's
before,
ready to
there's
go.
nothing more exciting than watching a test flight for a developmental program, and that's where we're at today.
And like we talked about, we have some really ambitious goals for today's test. But really, the point of today's test is to try to get as much data as we can so we can inform the next iteration of the design of Starship, work those things into flight test number 4 and new objectives there that'll eventually get us to that glorious, rapid, reusable future that we so badly want.
Yeah, for Flight 1, we wanted to clear the pad, and we did. For Flight 2, we wanted to get through hot staging separation, and we did. So today, we want to get even further than that and collect as much data as we possibly can. So with all that being said, we're going to check back in with Dan to take us through the final 2 minutes of terminal count.
Looks like they're going to go through with it.
We have closed out the prop load on the booster and on the ship.
Wow.
And we're starting to hear some good news that it looks like winds are not going to hold us up, so there's a good chance we blow right through that 40-second hold. So we're about 1 minute and 20 seconds
They're
away.
go for launch, 1.5 minutes.
Just walking you through one last time, we're going to see the engines ignite about 4 seconds before we hit our T0. They're going to ignite in 3 different banks. You'll get 13 of the inners, 15 of the outers, and then the last 5 ignite just 2 minutes before T0. And then after that, the quick disconnect will retract. The engines will start to throttle up, and then we'll see liftoff about 1.5 seconds after
I gotta
T0.
look at it on the big screen.
We're under a
It's
minute
a big
away.
rocket. It deserves to be looked at on the big screen.
Don't be shocked if we hold at 40 seconds before, but it sounds like the winds are cooperating today. We'd be able to move right past that, not tracking any other technical issues that could hold us.
Past our QD bank gate.
$30 seconds in here.
Woo!
No holds. They are go for launch. They just said they're going.
Flight Director Ty Huntington telling the team we are go for launch. So
20 seconds
to go. Let's listen in.
T-minus 10.
Wow. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition! Whoa! Liftoff! Woo! I'm really happy right now. Oh man, look at that! I'm amazed the shockwaves aren't destroying the drone. Oh my god, that's beautiful. We are on board, looking down at planet Earth.
30 seconds into flight, we are feeling the rumble. We are seeing 33 out of 33 Raptor engines ignited on the Super Heavy booster.
We're like, we're right. Oh my God, we're punching through the clouds. I didn't know we were going to actually be on Starship.
Good call outs. Our trajectory
We're literally on the
is
rocket
looking
right now,
nominal. Just
flying into
amazing to see
space.
all 33 lit up once again. At this point, we've already passed through max Q, that max.
Look at it!
And passing supersonic, so we're now moving faster than the speed of sound.
So is it vibrating like that, or is it the camera?
From the ship cameras.
Man. It looks like all the rockets are into the burning, man.
Milestone is going to
they are all burning.
Staging maneuver. Again, we're going to be doing that in just about 90 seconds. To do that, we're going to shut down
Look at that
all
shot.
the 3 center Raptor engines on Super Heavy. That'll be our MECO, our most engines cut off. And then the clamps holding the 2 stages together are going to release. Starship second stage.
Looks like all the tiles are still intact.
The first, the sea levels right after that.
From what I
sea
can
level
tell.
engines will be splayed or just kind of pointed out at about a 15-degree
all engines are still burning after 2 minutes.
You might be able to see those center right after.
Less than a minute till main engine cut off.
Will push Starship off of the booster. All right, counting down now. We're going to be coming up right at around the 3-minute mark on that hot staging maneuver. Again, we'll see the booster engines start to shut down. You'll see all but 3 lights go out in the middle.
Oh man, we're still getting shots from the
and that will start carrying the ship
Starship
into
itself.
Space. Booster will start to do its flip and then move into the boost back burn, setting it up for eventual splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, here goes staging. Wow, we just watched hot staging live from the point of view of Starship.
Hot staging confirmed.
And it's flying back.
Boosters now making
oh, we can watch it flying back.
6 engines ignited.
Oh my God.
Ship. Kate, we got a Starship on its way to space and a booster on the way back to the Gulf.
Oh man.
We got a Starship on the way to space.
To pick my jaw up from the floor because these views are just stunning.
This is insane.
From Starship.
I wasn't expecting shots like this. I mean, I was the first 2 launches and we didn't get them, and now we're getting exactly what we were hoping for.
First stage is currently performing the
including a first stage that's working.
1 minute. That boost back
on this boost back.
That boost back burn propels the booster back towards the coast, taking it to a landing in the waters of the Gulf of Mexico.
Boost back shut down.
Using the Super Heavy booster's 13 center engine from here on out. As whenever they relight, you'll be able to see that in the left bottom corner. Those are the ones that can gimbal. In other words, they move and change direction in order to change the thrust to steer the first stage back to Earth. Wow, these are just
so that's going to go into a coast phase until it gets near the surface of the water, and then I think we're going to watch it land.
Looking good for both first stage
on water.
On the left-hand side
so
of your screen,
or
the Super Heavy booster, as well as on the right-hand side of your screen, that is Starship, or we also refer to that as the ship.
Thought that's something you did to a horse.
The boost back burn was the first of 2 burns required to return it to Earth. The next one will be the landing burn, where all 13 center engines will initially ignite and then transition into a 3-engine burn to help slow it down. Now, just as a reminder of the Stage 1 test objectives, we're looking for controlled ascent, which we have so far. Stage separation, which gorgeous. We cruised right through it.
This Starship is still burning.
Good news there, telling us that the path that Starship is on is good. Now, Starship's second stage is still firing its engines, and as you heard, following planned flight path. The ship objectives, we're looking for hot staging. Again, cruised right through that. We're looking to demonstrate.
Wow, so Starship itself is going 11,000 miles an hour.
Now the bottom,
and it's got about 3 more minutes left in flight.
So be sure to keep an eye on those.
And
Yep, Kate,
I
like,
think
this
that
is
means
just
we're
a
also about
phenomenal
3
test
minutes
so
away
far.
from
Super Heavy is
the
performing
watering.
beautifully today. It's on its return leg of the journey. Ship continuing to burn its 6 engines, those larger circles.
Yeah, we're
the
coming
Raptor
down.
vacuum engines, the inner circles, the Raptor sea level engines. We're about 30 seconds away, just under 30 seconds away.
Oh, here we go, re-entry burn.
From the start of the boost back burn. Excuse me, the landing burn on the booster.
Is it the landing burn or a re-entry burn?
Those hypersonic grid fins are guiding us through the atmosphere back towards our splashdown site. Again, we're going for a splashdown, a soft splashdown.
Oh, yep. We're just moments away from a water landing.
13 center engines light,
punching through the clouds again.
rapidly bring down the booster's velocity.
And Starship is still flying at almost 16,000 miles an hour.
Splashdown. Let's see if that'll work.
We're seconds away from a... Let's see those engines ignite. Oh, it looks like it's going out of control a little bit there. Oh, there goes the engines.
And acquisition of signal. We'll see if we can get some other video of that. Now, this is a test objective today. It is still something
so we're in the
attempting
water,
to learn.
and I don't know if the engines actually contributed to
re-entry up to that point is
the
pretty
landing
darn
or
good.
not. It looks like they
Ship
fired up at the
continuing
last
to look
moment, and it
nominal
was
with
too
its
late.
Ascent burn.
But
This burn
it's hard to say.
lasting about 6 minutes total.
Wow. And Starship is still
And we're
burning,
expecting
and
that
it
this
is
burn
going
will
20,000
end,
miles an hour.
Just after T+8 minutes.
And
about
there's
a
1 minute
from
left on the
now.
burn.
So far, though, I mean, congrats to the team. Making it this far is farther
Wow.
than we've gone on flight 2.
And the tiles look
Just
pretty
wonderful
good.
views
Still,
and
looks like
great
there's one maybe
engine performance from the
missing
vehicles.
there. I'm not sure. 2, 3. It's hard to say. But
So far, we've hit controlled
it'll be
ascent.
cool
We're in the
too if
middle
we
of that
can
right now. We demonstrated the hot staging, Kate, as
continue
you said,
to
cruise through
see
that.
Starship,
We
through its
demonstrated
partial orbit
controlled entry
and
of
its re-entry into
booster.
the Indian Ocean.
Just dropped a little
That
short
would
of
be
the
really
engine
cool.
relay, but hey, that's something we can learn for the next one.
Yeah. Now that view that
All
we
the
just
engines
had
are still
moments ago
burning
was
on
a live
Starship.
shot of Star Command. There you see it again. This is our mission control center
We are
at Starbase.
almost there.
Where vehicle
Oh, they just
operators
turned
are
off
standing by. Now the next milestone
the
coming
vacuum
up,
engines.
Is in less than a minute. At that
That must
point,
mean
ship
we're
will-
seconds
or,
away
I'm sorry,
from
actually, it already has.
Seco. Yeah! Woo! It's there. It made it.
There by the call out and from the crowd behind us.
Congrats, guys.
Starships.
Wow.
6 Raptor engines have
And congrats on the
successfully
signal.
shut down. We
Wow.
heard a call out for nominal
Starship.
orbital insertion, which is
Oh.
incredible. Look at these views.
Starship in an orbital insertion.
I'm
Wow.
just completely blown away right now.
I am completely blown away
What
too.
a day. Congratulations to the entire
Wow.
SpaceX team. I mean, this flight pretty much just started, but
So now this thing's gonna kind of do a flip too, and a retro burn of some
but on
sort.
its coast phase into space.
Maybe over Africa.
Just to recap,
So it'll come
where
down
we've
in
come, and it's only been 9.5
Indian Ocean.
minutes. How has it only been 9.5 minutes? We lifted off right on time at 8:25
Yeah,
a.m.
the countdown went really well. I mean,
we had 33 out of 33
fueled it up,
Raptor
no
engines
holds,
open up. And
perfect
light
video.
get us through a nominal ascent.
I don't think that
Successful
soft
hot
landing
stage.
went really
All
well. I
6
think
engines on the ship
you
propelling
should have
us
seen a
into
better
orbit. We did see what looked like a nominal
rate of
boost back
deceleration
burn,
before it hit
and
the
then
water.
we did make
But
it all the way to the landing burn this
I'm
time.
really concerned
Didn't
about them
light all the
actually
engines that
trying
we
to
expected, and we did lose the booster.
grab
We'll
the
have to go
first
through the
stage,
data to
the entire
figure
first
out
stage,
exactly
the size
what
of
happened,
a first and
obviously.
second stage of a
So
Saturn
we'll
V
be
with
on the lookout for
with the
information
claw
about that, but
or
wow.
Mechazilla or whatever you want to
Ship
call
in
it.
space, we've
But,
got a bunch
it's
of,
definitely
as we
concerning,
said, ambitious objectives ahead of
try
us.
to catch something
over
that
the
heavy
next couple of
with
minutes, pretty
that
much over
level
the
of
next hour,
perfection
where
of
we're gonna
landing
really,
with something that
we've got the
size,
ship in space. We're now going
and
to take
with
advantage of this and try and learn as much
the
as possible
possibility
about some
of,
of
you
the
know,
other systems
being a few
including that first ever
millimeters
Raptor
off
relay in
here or
space.
there,
It's just going to be
you know,
incredible.
during the
So
grab, and
all
things
of
will
that's
slip
still to
and
come.
disasters can
The
happen. So
mission
I'm a little
just
worried
started,
about
but
that.
wow,
But I am
what a
very impressed
liftoff!
with
What
the
a
fact that
hot
they
stage!
actually
What an amazing sight to see Starship
took
there
this
in
whole
outer
thing to
space.
orbit, all good
I
engines
can't
on all
believe we're seeing
stages,
it in
and
space. This is awesome.
Wonderful.
Now we are going to be
it just looks really
coasting
good.
for the next about
It still looks good. I'm
30
just looking
minutes
at
or
this
so. We'll be back
mesmerized
around the
because
T+40-minute mark, and that'll be Starship continuing
it almost
to
looks
coast,
like a
hit those
space
ambitious
shark
test
from this
objectives,
angle,
and then continue
but we know we're
on to
looking at its
re-entry.
side, so it definitely
Not
looks
totally
like
sure
more like
what
a
video that
stingray
we'll
or
get,
something,
since that
or a
normally
squid.
comes to us as we overfly ground
Fast-moving,
stations, and we don't have a ton of
cool-ass
those along our trajectory.
squid.
But as we have video, we'll be sure to bring that to you.
Starlink may be able to bring us additional communication paths today that will allow us to talk to Starship through re-entry with no communications blackout period. It's a possibility,
Be cool
but
to give it a
either
name
way,
like
we will be
Stingray or
live for
something.
all of today's milestones. And of course, when we do have views,
Signal, Puerto Rico.
especially like the ones that we have now, which I just cannot get over. When we have views, we will be
In fact,
sure
I
to
think
bring
of like
those to you
4 or 5
live.
different types
But
of
no views or no
sea
views, we'll
critters
see you
when I
back
look at
here
Starship.
at T+40 minutes.
Pez door is opening.
And there we just heard call it that Pez
Oop.
door is opening, so that's great.
So they got the
One of our test
payload door
objectives today is to open and close that Pez door. That's
opening,
where we will deploy
which is
Starlink satellites from in the future. So great news there that that test that test objective is already underway. So come back here, stick around till T+40 minutes for coverage of Starship's deorbit burn.
So basically, there's other holes in this thing that they
followed
can
by
open
its
up for
re-entry, and
either
what is
the
sure to be
dispensing
an
of
exciting splashdown.
satellites or a fueling device for refueling in orbit, you know, which is, like they said, required to get to both, you know, the moon and the Mars and back, which seems like a lot of effort. And Apollo didn't have to refuel on the way, but they also had just a small capsule being delivered to the moon. This thing's rather large. But I'm really excited for the fact that this worked. I mean, these guys are excited too, and if you look at them now, they're all kind of just, you know, they're waiting for the retro burn and the deorbit, but they've had so many successes that when they have a success, I'm not sure they know how to celebrate anymore, because I would still be celebrating, because this whole thing just worked really well. You know, they got the launch down really well, so now they got to work on the landings for both of these things. I'm still not really sure how they're going to do it.
Expected launch signal, taking out.
Well, rather than listen to elevator music, I'm going to be right back.
Pez checker. Get lost in signal, Puerto Rico. Acquisition of signal, Idris.
Starship's flight computer is in propellant transfer demo. Starship flight computer is in the propellant transfer complete state. Pez, checkout complete. Door is closing. patrol has started.
Love this elevator music. It's nice to see some shots pop in every now and then. I'd like to know like what it's over. It looks like it's still over the ocean. Interesting to see its speed changing slowly faster. I don't know if that's because it's slowly falling back down. Or if it's just part of the elliptical orbit, or if just the measurement's just off because it's over the ocean. So 206 kilometers, that's not really all that high. It's definitely not high enough for orbit. Which explains why it is speeding up, because it is slowly falling down. Its orbit, or its altitude is decreasing. Now it's 203. I didn't look at the itinerary to know if it's going to naturally fall back to Earth or if it's going to actually fire its retros. Retros. What a retro term. I'm going to pull up and try to see how much longer we got.
Acquisition of signal, part of it's done.
It's been a while since I've heard real department store music or elevator music. I can't do it much longer. I hope this thing lands. It's coming down slowly on its own here. About a kilometer every, assuming it's accurate, every 20 seconds. I believe there's only another 15 minutes or so. Till splashdown.
Welcome back to live coverage of our third Starship flight test, which lifted off from Starbase, Texas at 8:25 a.m. Central Time. Our main objective today was to get through all of our ascent burns and collect as much data as possible, including a potential Starship entry. And we just came out of a coast phase and were treated to a number of HD views thanks to Starlink, including the PEZ door open-close test. So that was one of our test objectives today that we met. So that's awesome. It has been such a great day.
It has been a phenomenal test day. Just to see booster lifting Starship to ascent, ship completing its ascent.
Yep, so they basically made it
wonderful
the
day.
world's most expensive
kind of to
PEZ
recap
dispenser.
the objectives a little bit.
Except it
Booster
dispenses
completed
satellites.
its ascent, ignited its 33 Raptor engines. We demonstrated a successful hot staging for the second time. Booster completed the boost back burn, didn't quite accomplish the landing burn, and then had a hard splashdown in the Gulf. Meanwhile, ship completely successful after the hot staging. We had a good 6-engine burn of the Raptor vacuum engines and sea level engines. And then we've commanded a number of demonstrations, including the Starlink satellite deploy demo, so the payload door, as well as a prop transfer demonstration. We do still need to do some data review on those, so as we get that data back, we'll be sure to update you on social for how those tests went. We are coming up on our next major milestones, which is an in-space relight of our Raptor engine for the first time, followed by re-entry and
that'll be
then
interesting
landing
to see
in
if
the
it
Indian
actually
Ocean. Incredible.
lights without
That's right, guys. We should be just about 40 seconds away, 40 or 50 seconds away if we do this relight demo. Do want to stress this is not a deorbit burn. In fact, it's actually going to function a little bit opposite of a deorbit burn. We're going to be raising our perigee with this burn for the lowest point of our orbit. This is just to demonstrate that we can relight a Raptor engine on ship while it's gone through a coast, while it's in outer space, while it's in microgravity, all of the different complexities that come with lighting this engine again after it's already done an ascent burn, but you're now coasting through space. This is going to be really important anytime we want to do in-space maneuvers in the future, like eventual deorbit burns, any of our translunar injections that'll have Raptor engines firing back up. We may not do it. There is, all of the guidance is loaded into Starship's computer itself, so if it doesn't see the values that it needs to, we could just skip the burn. So we are waiting to find out if that's going to happen or not. If it doesn't, as we said in the beginning, we're on a pretty steep trajectory that we are coming home no matter what, regardless of doing a burn. This was done just so we can really, we're in a trajectory that's really not super susceptible to delta V changes in velocity. If we were to do a burn, we've got a pretty concise footprint in the Indian Ocean that we're going to be targeting for splashdown today. It does sound like we are skipping past the on-orbit relight demo this time. Again, we'll confirm all of this through our post-flight data review, but it did sound like we did pass through that burn. So now that's going to start setting us up for re-entry.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So coming up next around T plus 49 minutes is Starship re-entry. Now, this is typically a portion of flight where we don't have communications with spacecraft because they're re-entering the Earth's atmosphere at or around orbital velocity, about 8 kilometers per second or roughly 5 miles per second. Super fast. Now, at those speeds, the spacecraft's interaction with the atmosphere results in friction and creates a plasma field around the vehicle. That blanket of plasma distorts communication frequencies, so we're basically left with a brief communications blackout. Now, we might get some telemetry back through a connection to the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System, also known as TDRS. But if the plasma doesn't entirely block it, that connection will be at a very slow data rate and definitely too slow for any video.
But that's why Starship and Starlink are a great partnership. Starship is so big that it will leave a wake or a hole in the plasma field as it flies through an atmosphere. You can think of a wake kind of like when you see a boat going through the ocean. It sort of leaves a trail behind it. There's some of those great views from Starlink, giving us views of Starship's onboard videos.
This is cool looking.
And so we're hoping that the Starlink on board will let us, just like we're seeing these videos now, see through that plasma field by maintaining a continuous communication lock with the satellites on orbit through the wake that Starship leaves behind. Now, this is only the second time that we're testing Starlink during re-entry, so even though we do have these great visuals now, don't be surprised if we manage to get some signal hiccups through. We're still learning about what that wake will actually look like in practice and whether we're able to get that live, continuous, high-speed data during re-entry.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the really primary
it's almost dizzying because we're like moving, translating, and rotating at the same time.
It's been said the data is the payload on one of these flights. Where we're putting this flight hardware in a real flight environment, trying to learn about it as much as possible. Re-entry is going to be a really critical phase of flight. We really want to know how the ship's going to perform, especially that heat shield as we're going through the hypersonic re-entry. So if something were to go wrong during this re-entry, we want as many paths as possible to collect that information, that data, just to, again, just continually feed back into the Starship program to make each flight more reliable, more successful.
Acquisition signal for it.
Now, if Starship manages to make it all the way through
You can see
re-entry,
the
we'll collect
shadows
valuable data on Starship
are at a
flying
steep
through the
angle
Earth's
relative to
atmosphere
the
at
clouds,
hypersonic speeds, meaning more than
it
five, or at
is
this point, will be more than 5 times
getting
the
close
speed
to
of sound.
sundown.
Now we're watching these live views, HD views
Well,
by the looks
things
of it,
are
thanks to
moving
Starlink.
around.
You can see that the flaps there on
There's
the
a
ship
lot of
might be
debris
actuating.
coming from something.
Certainly some incredible visions of planet
You
Earth
can
behind
definitely
Starship.
I
Now,
think
we've already
see some
validated Starship's
interference
ability to
from
fly
upper atmosphere.
and land at subsonic speeds. You might recall those suborbital flights from
So
a few years ago, and we can
maybe
see
this is
those
ablation we're
flaps
getting.
there.
Well, this thing just flipped, so
Getting
it's
data
kind of
on
oriented
aspects
with
like
bottom
radiation
side
control
down,
while
I guess,
traveling way
now.
faster than we did
Yeah,
before
well,
is going to be
continuing
critical
to
to
kind of
eventually
flip
bringing
around,
starships back from space for rapid reuse. So I mentioned those flaps. That's one of
there
the
is a
things
lot of debris getting
that
pulled off,
enables
like
Starship to help
insulation
control
and
itself and survive the heat of reentry, which, like we said before, we're expecting that reentry to occur around T plus 49 minutes. So we're getting pretty close.
we're about to
And
experience
what
a
you're seeing
sunset.
here, it looks like the vehicle is sort of moving back and forth. Part of what you're also seeing is one of the cameras, this onboard view that we have, is on the end of a flap. Starship has front flaps and
Okay,
rear
that
flaps
explains
in
the weird
vehicle.
angle. So
We've
as
got 4
the
of
flap
those,
moves, the
and,
camera
oh man, we
moves.
can see the heating on those
The back
flaps as
flap.
we're starting
Oh,
to re-enter
wow.
the Earth's atmosphere. This is where the Earth's atmosphere
Oh, wow.
is doing the work to slow us down.
Holy moly!
Now, like we said, this plasma field
Wow.
is
Oh my God!
to maintain these views throughout. Starship is so big that we're hoping that the plasma field doesn't
How is it that it's
blanket
not
the entire
interfering?
vehicle.
Must be because
Right now,
Starlink
it
is
is
doing a
not.
good job. I mean, I can't believe that's not interfering with radio blackout. That we're actually getting these signals.
Capturing the data and the video that we see here. I mean, Shiva, this is just
Oh,
absolutely incredible views. We've never seen anything like this before. This is the biggest flying object ever in space.
Absolutely, Kate. And
I
it's
don't
important
understand
to
the
note
re-entry angle
the
that it's
ascent
at.
burn that we did was to get us to orbital velocities, even though we were
sideways?
on a nearly orbital trajectory. So the heating and the loads that Starship is going through right
Oh,
now
wow.
are what it would be getting if it were
Oh,
recovering
wow.
from an orbital mission.
Oh, we
Just the
are in
fact
a
that we have
full-on
used it, this is incredible.
Yeah. Again, this
ionic
is the
ablation
furthest
going
and
on here,
fastest that
man.
Starship has ever flown.
Oh, signal breaking up. Yeah, we're definitely going to be losing this signal. I don't know how we're going to keep the signal. That interference,
The heat
wow.
shield tiles doing their work. We talked about it earlier.
86
up to 2600
kilometers.
degrees Fahrenheit that those heat shield tiles are dissipating as we are re-entering.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, now this was one of the critical, or rather the key mission objectives.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like as they move the flap, you kind of like the canard there in the front.
So this is the first time that we're
you
getting
get
to collect this
the
re-entry
plasma
data
field around
and
it. So when
understand
they
how
move the
these
flap
18,000
down, the
hexagonal
camera
heat shield
went with
tiles
it, and
are
then we
working together
started
to
getting a
protect
higher
the belly
generation of
Starship
plasma.
as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. Once again,
Wow.
the
I can't
atmosphere
believe
is
we're
doing us
actually
a big
watching
favor
this
here by
live, surviving so
The
far.
atmosphere is actually doing us a huge favor
Re-entry.
here by acting as a braking system for Starship
This is
as
crazy.
it re-enters the atmosphere.
I wasn't expecting this. I didn't even think we would see any of the landing whatsoever.
Of Starship and the drag from the atmosphere to slow us down from orbital speed, but you want the vehicle to
I'm
remain
really
stable.
surprised
You
we
want
haven't
those heat
seen
shield
a
tiles pointed
loss
down,
of signal.
so they can absorb the heat of the
There
Earth's
is.
atmosphere.
Wow,
and so
that did
the
such a good
purpose that
job.
they are
It's still trying to
serving
do a job,
during the
looks like.
hypersonic phase, and then again during the subsonic phase.
Absolutely. So like we said, these views are being provided by a couple
Oh boy,
Starlink
the camera
terminals
looks
that are
all
positioned
messed up.
on Starship itself. As that plasma
I would think
builds,
that at some
we're
point in
hoping
time
that
would
we
probably
can bring
be
these views back
covered
to
with
you,
some type of
but
ablative
you can
debris
see
from the
telemetry
tiles
there
and
on the right-hand
insulation.
side of your screen. If you watch closely, you can see the speed decelerating. Again, that's the friction of the atmosphere resulting in this plasma field, or excuse me, the blanket that is potentially blocking the Starlink terminals right now. So we'll bring those views back to you if we get them. But right now, for those of you that have recently joined, Starship is currently
I hope this thing makes it right to the ocean intact and everything.
This is super exciting because it's the furthest and fastest that Starship has ever flown.
It's just absolutely incredible.
Good news
Major test
as far as that
milestone,
goes.
something we wanted to accomplish on Flight 2.
I've been concerned about the tiles
so
and
awesome.
the fact that
now we actually have some heat shields
there's
here.
only
so
basically
these are
one
what's doing all the work on Starship right
one
now.
tank, you know,
There are 18,000
it's not a double-hulled tank,
heat
you know,
shields
there's
like these.
no
So
extra
this
protection
one that
for
I have is
the
flat, like
Starship
this is what
itself.
would be
It's just
positioned on the
this thing,
flaps
the
of
insulation
Starship,
between
whereas
it and
Shiba has something a little
the
different.
stainless steel of the tank.
The one I have
you know,
would
the
be
rocket
on the
itself.
curved surfaces of Starship. I'll just put it in frame here. So we've got these attached at various points around the vehicle. Like you said, Kate, 18,000 of these tiles around, and they're doing the work to make sure that the structure of the vehicle doesn't carry all that thermal load, so we can recover the vehicles eventually and get to rapid reuse on them.
They're really lightweight. They sound a little different than I would have expected them to, but they are
There's
ceramic.
no telemetry updates. I don't know if that's just because of the loss of signal or maybe they lost the vehicle and they just don't know for sure yet.
We're not sure how far we're going to make it. Again, this is the furthest that we've gotten in our test flight, but the further we fly, the more data that we can get, and that's ultimately the measure of success here, which I mean, I think today has been a huge success given where we've gone and how much further we've gotten with both the booster and
highly
Starship itself.
possible that we're not going to see any more of the landing, especially if they lost the vehicle.
High-speed video is
which
a
is highly
very high
likely.
data
I mean,
rate, and
you could
usually
see the
video
amount
comes
of
after you get your telemetry. So
heat
hopefully we were able to
stress
get some
forces
wonderful data
on the
throughout
rocket.
entry period, which is normally something we have to wait for.
And if there is a
until
failure
after
point that
splashdown
starts to
when we
develop,
get that data off the data recorders.
you know, due to the
Now, you
plasma
mentioned
burning
before
through
the
something,
flaps,
it
again,
doesn't take
the
long to
flaps
burn
are,
through.
Protected by the flat heat shields like I have. There are 4 of those positioned on Starship.
So that's
2
my
at the
concern
forward end
with
or the top end,
any kind of
and
tile
2
system,
at the
kind of like when they
bottom or
launched
aft
the
end. And
space
they
shuttles to
operate
begin with, and there's a
independently
lot
to
of tile
aerodynamically
loss.
control the vehicle's
And
attitude,
they
or
were real
positioning
concerned about,
during
you know, losing the
atmospheric flight
vehicle,
and
you know,
enable
due to
precise
burn
landing
through. You know,
at the
luckily the
intended location. So today we are
majority of the
intending to
tile
splash down,
losses were
in
in
the
places
Indian
that
Ocean, and we're hoping
wouldn't cause the
that,
loss of the
we
vehicle,
can make it that
you know,
far,
until
but
it did. But
regardless, it is
that
an
wasn't even
exciting
tiles,
end
that
to
was
what has been an
another
exciting day.
Absolutely, and I mean, we've had some tests
piece of
in
heat
the
shield
past.
in the
We had
front
some
wing
orbital
of Columbia,
campaigns
and
where we have tested out the aerodynamic flaps
that just
at
shattered due to
subsonic
getting
speeds,
hit by
that's below
insulation.
the speed of sound. At hypersonic
Which is,
speeds, well,
it wasn't the
supersonic
tiles.
speeds
So the
first,
tiles
faster than
did
speed
a
of sound,
pretty
and
good
hypersonic
job.
speeds, so that's more than 5
It's not an
times the speed
awful
of sound.
solution.
The
question is
equations of
keeping them
motion
on the vehicle.
change, how the vehicle responds changes. So going through that control phase where we're going from faster than the speed of sound to below the speed of sound was one of the objectives today.
Yeah. And that's actually a great point because we are expecting that entry subsonic period to occur around T+1 hour and 3.5 minutes. So we're not there yet. We're about 10 minutes away from that point. So again, that is when Starship would be
So what's interesting is, yeah, they're still 10 minutes away
thanks to
from
the
landing,
atmospheric
especially
braking system.
considering how long ago we were watching the initial part of the reentry.
And
you know,
so
when
right
the
now we're
atmosphere
still
gets
waiting to
thicker
see
and
if
the
we're gonna
vehicle
get data
slows
back
down,
from this ship. We might be in a bit of a blackout period right now.
definitely.
So still waiting to hear the status on it, but yeah, we got to the actual entry portion of today. We started into peak heating, which was just a really big milestone. Starship is pretty unique in the way that it re-enters, especially for something reusable. The closest parallel has been the space shuttle. When we're comparing Starship to like when we bring a Falcon 9 booster back, we're talking about 20 times the energy given the velocity that we're moving at, and all of that energy just gets converted into heat.
Yeah, Starship is
And then we
very
need to
much a
use those
space
tiles
shuttle,
to
and
just
I
help
don't
dissipate that heat. They're not
understand why they don't
ablative
just
like
make it a
you would
space
see on
shuttle.
something like Dragon, which uses an ablative in the capsule shape. So
When I say make it a space
that are
shuttle, I
made to be
mean
reusable. So any data we're getting on the actual temperatures it was seen during heating,
molding the wings
all
into
of that is just
the fuselage
really
of the
hugely valuable.
craft
Where
itself,
Starship is really unique
lifting
is,
body
and Kate and Shiv have talked about it a couple of times,
with some
is
flaps.
once we're through this kind of hypersonic.
I understand that
section,
the
and we
reason
get
not
down
to do
the
that is because you
subsonic.
start turning it
And
into a
that's where
shuttle,
we
then you
really
need to
learned
land it like
lot and
a
proved that
plane, and then you
Starships
need landing
really
gear, and
just
it
its
just start
basic
adding
shape
on all this
could
complexity
work. And we
and
did
weight
that during the suborbital campaign.
that adds to the
Again, if you compare it to the
reusability
shuttle,
of the
which
rocket, but
entered,
it
it had the wings.
takes
It
away
had a
from
similar
the
shield
cargo
system, but it
liftability.
had wings.
And
And then
it
was
makes it
almost
much
flown
more of
like a glider once it
a
re-entered. It was
poor
down
solution
to
in
those
terms of
subsonic
like
speeds.
cargo to weight ratio.
With Starship, we're not doing that. We're just coming straight down. We'll hit terminal velocity, which with Starship is around 200 miles an hour, and then we use a flip maneuver to ignite those engines, do a landing burn, and then touch
10
down
more
on the
minutes.
ground. So you don't need a runway. We're doing that, again, designed because when we go to the moon, when we go to Mars, there's not going to be a runway there for us, and so that propulsive landing is going to be really important. This is an
And
animation
that's
of
why
what
it's not a
we were
shuttle
just
with landing
watching
gear,
on
because
actual
you could land on
Starship
Earth that
video,
way,
which
but
is
you
pretty
can't land
incredible.
on Mars and you can't
But
land on
we
the
go
moon
through
unless, you
peak
know,
heating.
you make a
One
runway
of the
first,
benefits of
which
today's
you could
trajectory,
do,
actually,
but you would
we
need
got
to
closer to what the heating profile
deliver the
will be on
vehicles
just
to
a
to
normal
make some
mission,
kind of runway
when
to
you
begin
compare
with,
it
and you
to our
gotta ask
previous
yourself
flights,
if,
which were headed out to
you know,
Hawaii.
which makes more sense, making a
So
runway or
we
trying
go
to
through
do
peak heating,
propulsive
and then we hit
landings.
subsonic, and then Starship splashes down in the ocean. Again, we're not doing a landing burn on this flight.
On Mars, I'm kind of
and we're
iffy
not
as to which one
expecting
makes
Starship
sense.
to survive the impact.
Other
We're
than
not
the
gonna be
atmosphere is so
recovering any of the
thin that
hardware. For now, though,
your
we are just
aerodynamic
still
lift
waiting to see
is
if we're going to
small,
get
so
some
it probably
signal
make it
back.
very
We're
hard
currently at a
to
loss of signal with Starship.
land on Mars
Don't
with
know for
wings.
sure what its status is, and so we're just continuing to listen in. But it was pretty incredible seeing the flaps really do their thing to maneuver the vehicle as it's moving through hypersonic.
Sure was.
One of the big trade-offs between something like Shuttle and Starship is wings can be pretty heavy. And so if we can really demonstrate that Starship's controllable through that hypersonic regime when you're coming through the atmosphere, you know, 25 times the speed of sound, you can save a whole lot of weight by not having really big wings. So super valuable to get this data, super valuable to then figure out what we're going to do on our next test flights.
Yeah, and you brought up a really interesting point too, that for on Shuttle, you are gliding in, going back to a runway. On Starship, because we're landing vertically, we are basically coming down, and then we've seen this during the suborbital campaign. We're not going to see it today, but during the suborbital campaign, we did the flip maneuver and then light our engines for a landing burn. And that's also really important for some of our other terrestrial destinations. That we don't have as much of an atmosphere on Mars. There is pretty much no atmosphere. There's some great views from our previous test campaigns of a landing burn and upright landing. But on the moon, there is no atmosphere. On Mars, the atmosphere is extremely thin, so you actually need some other sophisticated techniques that other landers have used to land there. And so this vertical landing technique is really important to landing on destinations like those, which is ultimately where we're trying to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we hope to demonstrate that landing in future missions. That wasn't one of our objectives for today. We wanted the ship to focus on opening and closing, the first demonstration of opening and closing the PEZ door, which is where we will deploy Starlink satellites from in the future, as well as a gathering data on how the heat shield tiles performed during the entry period, and so far all of that has gone really well. So overall, it's been pretty great, and it's great to see how those initial tests that we
So do you think they know whether the vehicle's still intact or not, or are we just talking?
Allow us to see what those will look like in the future, but this piece that we're doing today of, okay, if we are coming back from orbital velocity and we're going through that entry period, that is the missing piece, right? We already figured out how to land once the ship gets to a certain velocity or altitude, and it's really this piece that we were trying to figure out today. How do we get Starship to survive orbital velocity, atmospheric entry, and we hope to find out soon.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about rapid iteration and how we do design. Part of our philosophy.
This will be like one of those things where they may not get any information back at all about the actual landing, but you know that
where you're trying
once
to
you get to
simulate
like
the atmosphere.
1
in a
minute
exactly.
or 1 hour and 5 minutes in, or whatever that time is, you know it should be landing then, and then it's inevitable. It's going to land. You might be a little bit off on the time, but
and prove out some of the analyses and probably teach us a bunch of things that we didn't
it
quite
may
get
be an
right.
uncontrolled landing.
And obviously, for those of you that have been watching along with us,
Or
those
watering.
were incredible views to see of that entry period where we saw the heat generating because of friction as the belly of Starship was making contact with the Earth's atmosphere, and that resulted in some plasma. So as Dan said before, we believe that we're in a bit of a blackout period at the moment. We are expecting the vehicle, if it's still alive, we would be expecting the vehicle to be approaching subsonic or slower than the speed of sound speeds in 3.5 minutes from now. So if it's still up there in one piece, it still has a way to go. We're not there just yet, but we saw that plasma field building up around the exterior, which can blanket the entire vehicle as it does with all of our Dragon missions, and we're at a loss for telemetry at that point in time.
Yeah,
So
Dan's seen a lot of those with Dragon missions that he's supported.
yeah, absolutely.
And we are hearing through some of the telemetry that we did. It did look like we lost Starlink and our Artedra's data flow at the exact same time. Now, if both of those signals are cutting out at the exact same time, that could mean we lost the ship. It has been several minutes since we've gotten any data from Starship. We are waiting just a couple more minutes just to see if we can get any additional confirmation, but that is one data point that we're tracking, and that could indicate that we had a loss or a breakup of the ship during that re-entry.
My
So,
guess is they probably lost
might
the
not
ship.
make it all the way to splashdown today, but we
there's a
were
lot of
able
like
to get through the
re-entry
early
failure
phases of
points on that
re-entry, get some
vehicle,
of that
like a lot of
heating,
exposed
which was just
untiled
really
areas,
incredible to see a
and
Starship
then there's areas where the
back from
tiles came
space
off.
after getting all those
There's
views from space for the very first time.
and that's my
So
concern. If you
we'll
lose
just
a
keep on
tile,
listening in on the loops here,
you
see
know,
if we hear anything
on the methane
over the next
tank,
couple of minutes. And that
it's going to burn through the steel at some point in time, and
so again, we did lose the
or
Artedra's,
heat it beyond certain limits, and
the satellite
you're
system
probably going to lose the
pretty
vehicle.
much every spacecraft operating in orbit right now will use to get data. We were
But,
able to get some
I know there's other ways to
and then we were also getting data
isolate the tanks from the heat, and the fuselage from the stress of re-entry, but
mission control down at Starbase. So these are all the folks who are
they're going to have to find them out. It's going to take a while to get a vehicle to work, but I'll tell you something, like first time they launched a shuttle,
Yeah, absolutely.
a vehicle that was definitely going to fail at some point in time. It had too many failure modes. So due to Murphy's Law and statistics, it was just bound to
we
fail.
don't know, as Dan
But
said. We did lose
given
connection
its
with TDRS, which is
first,
the tracking and data relay satellite system, and
dozens and
Starlink
dozens
at
of
the
flights,
same time. So
they
it
lost
is
a lot of tiles, but
realistic
the vehicle always
possibility
came
that
back,
we lost
and
Starship, which honestly was always
and
on
this
the
one may
table.
not
We
have.
didn't know
So
how
I think
far
it
was going
kind
to
of is
get.
going to
The further we
show
could fly
that
and the more data we
there's
could
some major
collect was always
deficiencies
the biggest
in
win.
the
And so
in
regardless
Starship
of,
itself.
if we did lose the vehicle
I don't
and
think
we are
that
not able
the
to,
tile heat
make it
re-entry
all the way
systems
to
as
our intended
simple as they
splashdown,
think.
note that we weren't intending to recover this vehicle either.
There was at no
vehicle,
point in
the
time
Super
on the
Heavy
space shuttle
booster,
that they were
nor,
applying tiles
the
directly to any
Starship. We weren't
surface that
intending to recover either of them.
had,
They were both going to
a tank,
basically hit at terminal
basically
velocity and break up
there,
upon
where
contact
there's
with
oxygen
the,
or
surface of
liquid
the
methane
ocean.
or liquid
So
hydrogen
we're
or
standing
liquid
by to
anything.
hear, whether or
And,
not,
there's always at
we
least,
are gonna be able to
a couple
get
layers
telemetry
of
readings back, but
design
we
between
are, possibly anticipating news that we lost
things that could
Starship due
explode
to,
or
basically
cause the
a
vehicle to
double
fail,
blackout
due
from
to
TDRS and
excessive heat
Starship.
during re-entry.
Starship
But the,
data at the same time.
But this is
but it came at a
it's worth
cost,
mentioning,
it's
this
like
is the first time that we have come back at these
you put a lot of
speeds
energy
in
into
any of the
lifting
test
the
flights that
space
we've
shuttle
done
itself
so
and not
far
the cargo,
with
because there's a
Starship.
lot
So we are
of
trying to prove
extra
out that the heat shield works as intended, that
weight
the
there, a lot of
controllability at
extra
those
mass.
hypersonic speeds
But
works as
the
intended.
it's
So
there for a
if
reason.
we were able to get
One,
back any data
usability,
on that,
two,
that means the
safety.
next
I mean,
version, what happens on
like
flight 4,
a rocket
5,
having
6,
some
is
bulk
gonna
to
be
it, as
better.
long as that
We must
is
be able
well
to get
applied
some
bulk.
because we saw incredibly gorgeous high
it
definition views
may
of
be
that entry period. whenever
better,
it was
but
initially
it
started.
may not
So
be.
we must have gotten some data
Today
there.
has been otherwise a phenomenal day.
I mean, clearly,
Liftoff on time,
whatever
full
number of layers
ignition
they
of
had
all
on
of the
Columbia,
boosters, engines,
because of the type of
successful
failure
hot staging,
there
and then
was
ship
in
took
the
it from
heat
there.
shield,
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
going to fail.
We were
And that's
able
an
to see
issue. It's
the-
like what
the ship
happens if you
actually
have
make it
heat
further,
shield
as well
failures
as
in
the booster.
critical
We were hoping
locations
that the booster
on
would
Starship.
perform a
Is it
soft
just
water
doomed to
landing,
fail?
but we lost it during
And,
just before it was able to
if you want to
ignite
lose
the
cargo,
landing
that's
burn,
fine.
the
But
ship continued
once
on.
you start getting
We
to
saw all six Raptor
flying
engines
with
on the ship ignite and
people
then
on
shut down
board and
for
crew,
second
and
engine cutoff, and we saw some amazing views as well. And it's just been
you need to be way past the
certainly
point
a
in time
day
where you're
that I
worried
will be
about heat
taking
shields
many
and any
screenshots
other like
and,
normal failures.
using them as my
And
computer
worried about like the
desktop
things that you're
background
not
for,
expecting
well, until the next
to be
Starship
problems,
launch.
and looking for those
When we
things
get
to fix
even
those,
better views, I'm
because
sure.
Exactly.
there will be
And we
things
also
that
hit a
creep
number
up
of
eventually, and they'll
other
expose
ambitious
themselves,
test
and if it
objectives.
results
We
in the
had a
loss of a
chance
vehicle
to,
with
at
people
least
on board, it's
initiate
going to be
commands
bad.
for
So
a propellant transfer demo within the vehicle. This is something that Starship's going to have to do in the future, and these sort of transfers haven't been done at this scale before, so that's a first as well. We also were able to demonstrate that the payload door
And we got to see
functions.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so those commands were sent. Again, data review to come and make sure that everything performed as expected. But that's going to be critical to deploying payloads in the future once Starship becomes operational. So a number of test objectives hit, much more accomplished than Flight 2, and making steady progress towards a fully, rapidly reusable, reliable Starship.
Absolutely.
And hey, Kate, and hey, Shiva, we were just hearing on the loops, we are making the call now that we have lost Ship 28. So, as we were
that's what I
possibly
figured.
expecting, we lost the data a couple of minutes ago. We haven't heard from the ship up until this point, and so the team has made the call that ship has been lost. So no splashdown today. But again, just
Wow, I
it's
can't believe we
incredible to
saw what
see
we
how
saw
much
as far
further
as the
we got
reentry,
this
and that it
time
made it
around.
through even
We
that
got a
part of the
couple of those
reentry. And
ambitious
it was only in
objectives
the
that you
initial
guys were
part. It
just
definitely
walking
was getting
through
into the more
that we're
meaty
able to
part
take advantage of while Starship was in outer space
of the
flying,
atmosphere, and it was definitely going to
over our
put
planet
more
for the very first time. So that was
forces on the
just
vehicle.
really
And it's
incredible.
not really a surprise that it's a
Obviously,
loss.
there's a lot to go through.
but,
Everyone always wants to know right off the bat what happened. Takes us a little bit of
There's
time.
definitely going to have
but
a
I
bunch
can
of
assure you as soon
flights
as we
to
start finding
figure
things
it out,
we're
but
gonna let everybody
I think
know.
there's definitely some
And I
critical
know everybody's
design
going to be excited for the next one. I mean, as I
opportunities,
pointed
I
out at the
guess you want
beginning,
to
there's
call
4
it that,
super heavy
to
boosters either fully stacked
to
or
make
getting stacked right behind me.
the
We've got other
vehicle
ships
itself
ready to go as well.
better
So it's going to be a
during
really busy
reentry.
time down here at Starbase as we look to really fly Starship as much
Looked
as
really
possible.
good during launch.
Get this vehicle ready to go for all the
Looked
important
good
things it's
during
gotta go
launch
do.
last time.
And with that, we got to say a huge congratulations to our teammates and everyone who's supported
first
the
stage
Starship program.
boost back
There's been
burn
flames
looked really
and
good.
reds along the way, but third time's the charm. And
I'm
we
not
made
sure
it to
why they hit the
space.
water so hard,
Also, a
but that
big
might have been
thanks to
part of the
all
plan.
our future customers
And,
for your support. And we want to give a big thanks to the people of Cameron County, Texas.
So yeah, it's
for their
really cool
support,
that we
as
got
well
to
as
see
the
all those
Coast
good
Guard and the
pictures. I
Federal
mean,
Aviation Administration.
I can't
Be sure to follow
believe how
the
well
SpaceX account
Starlink
on X for more updates from
worked
today's test flight and
as a
future
data
Starship
relay,
tests. But before we go, we want to wish SpaceX a
for
very happy
the
birthday.
rocket.
The company was founded
Wow,
on
it's
this
happy
day
birthday.
in
Look at
2002
Elon.
when it basically consisted of this small team, a carpet and a
Like he
Marriott
knows how to
command.
play
I don't know
marachas.
about you, but we're feeling 22. Also, it's Pi Day.
Yeah, but I mean, Pi Day is constant and never ending, so shouldn't every day be Pi Day from now on?
I mean, that's a really good point, and I think after a test like today's, we all deserve some pie.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Man, we need some pie. Somebody get this man some pie. Okay. Not sure how marachas and sombreros and pie go together, but so guess what? We made it to orbit, or I'll call it orbit. So we're going to have our guy do his thing. 0 G's. 0 G's.